PixMix. My name is Aaron.
My name is Patricia.
And we have to apologize once again for the delay on another episode of this. Once again this week, we've had another heat wave here in the UK, and it's just been way too hot to do podcasts at the moment.
Yeah.
And so we've had to wait for it to kind of like just dip under 30 degrees Celsius. Here in the UK, just so we can get into the podcast studio again. So now we're here, and we're trying our best to, stay cool and, try and do, the normal everyday that we try and do. And apologies once again if you hear noise. We've got the windows open and the doors open, so we're just trying to let hot air out of the house at the moment. So here we are.
Yeah.
So anyway, we are now going to be talking about Toy Story 5, which is the 5th installment of the Toy Stories franchise. And just before we even get into this, I mean, just the fact that we're talking about number 5. I remember seeing Toy Story back in 1995 and thinking this is going to be, quite a, an amazing movie, and how breakthrough it is with all the 3D graphics. Little did we know that we'd finally get to the 5th one.
Yes.
I mean, if you asked me that, we were going to get to the 5th movie. I mean, I was already tired after the 3rd, to be honest with you, and then we had the 4th movie, and that was okay if you'd watch the other movies, and I believe that we didn't think it was as good as the other installments of the Toy Story franchise.
I did re-listen to the PixMix episode that we did over 7 years ago, and we did say that it was enjoyable, but it was definitely the weakest out of the Toy Story films. I mean, I remember even you saying that this was actually a better way of getting people into the series than Toy Story 3 was. And
yeah, I agree that it was doing that, and it was getting us into a new generation. But I mean, for everybody who hadn't grown up with the Andy, storyline, I think for them it was kind of oh, this is kind of awkward. But
yeah.
I mean, for everybody else, I guess you could say it was for the Bonnie era, I guess you could say, for Toy Story. I guess this was a good way of bringing in new fans in, but I mean, if we had to be honest about it, I mean, I think Toy Story 2 still is the out of the 4 is the strongest.
I do agree, yeah.
Installment. So, by the way, we are going to go into spoilers for Toy Story 5. So, if you've not seen Toy Story 5 yet, please go and see it, and then come back to us. And or if you're waiting for an original movie, then don't go see it and ignore this podcast altogether. So,
yeah, we'll see you next year when we talk about Gato. Bye bye.
Anyway, so for any of us staying or watch Toy Story 5, then we will continue. So, this installment of Toy Story 5, I think, is probably one of the most scrutinized, Pixar movies, because once again, it's another sequel, and a lot of people right now are just saying, well, there's no originality coming out of Hollywood right now. It's just sequel after sequel after sequel, and the movie companies appear to be trying to still recover from the pandemic and trying to get people back into theaters. And I guess you could say that giving some familiarity, I guess, is probably the best way of getting people back into the cinema, I guess. And
I mean, it worked out for Inside Out 2.
It did, yeah, and it has worked out for various other movies that have broken $1 billion at the box office, so
yes.
It is working what is happening. So for all of you out there who, we said before, are looking for original content, well, you're not going to get it here. And I mean, I said on the Blue Sky just before, people giving money to all these sequels is a really weird way to say that you want original content. That's all I'm going to say. But putting all the atmosphere aside, we are going to talk about Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
And
no, we're going to talk about Toy Story 5.
Sorry, that's where I'm at. I always get bored after 3, and so I'm sort of stuck in 3. But I assure you, I have seen 5, and this woman has seen, and this woman is proof to say that.
Yes, yes, and also go check out the Old School Lane Instagram page, where we actually did a little preview video of us talking about our predictions and our thoughts of going to see Toy Story 5. So yeah, some of the things that we said, some of them were right, and then some of them were completely wrong. But that's what you get for trying to predict on something that you think you're going to see.
Yeah. So, I guess we should probably first start off with, how this came to be.
Oh, boy, that is a rough patch, I can tell you that.
It is. So, I mean, Toy Story 5, one of the most scrutinized, releases in years. A film that is balancing legacy, technological themes, and also it's the pressure of a continuing a beloved franchise. So you can probably imagine there was a lot riding on this.
Yes.
And so we're going to go into the production, the story, the characters, the reception, the box office, and also the long-term legacy that Toy Story 5, potentially could lead, and where we might go after, after this movie.
Yeah.
So, Let's talk about the Andrew Staunton returned to the helm of the project and is co-writing the screenplay with Kenna Harris. And Staunton also conceived the story, marking it as the first Toy Story film without John Lasseter's involvement.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
right.
that's an important thing actually, because as much as we've said that Pixar have moved away from that era of Disney. I mean, even though they've said, oh hey, well we're releasing a Toy Story movie. I mean, it's still a big departure from that era, because John Lasseter is no longer there.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen from,
yeah,
as you guys remember from 7 years ago, Toy Story 4 was the very last project that John Lasseter had worked on right before he was let go, and nowadays he's working on Skydance Animation. And so, from 2020 all the way up until now, we've seen the post John Lasseter era, which is Pete Docter taking over Pixar. And yeah, I mean, we've seen that there's been a lot of ups and downs, where a lot of people said that, yeah, you have like amazing masterpieces like Soul and Inside Out 2 and recently Hoppers, but then there's been a lot of mixed bags. Some people had mixed reactions towards Onward and Turning Red and Luca and Lightyear and just recently Elio. And so, yeah, I mean, there are cases in which that's going to happen, because we remember, after Toy Story 4 came out, Pete Docter said that they wanted to focus on doing original stuff. And so that was what they were doing for the past few years. And then the pandemic happened and things kind of got a little bit rocky when they released their stuff exclusively on Disney+.
Well, I think the one thing I'll say, in defense of Pixar, is that at least they tried to try and bring something here. Now, there's litigated circumstances over all the movies that we've just mentioned. Out of all of them, we love Turning Red. I mean, Turning Red, I think was the ruby that's shone for throughout all the other movies. And I mean, at least you can say that at least Pixar was trying to release something original and was trying to do something different, and was trying to find out what the next era of Pixar was going to be.
Yeah,
and
they were doing a lot of experimentation, especially since that was when Pete Docter said to all of the up and coming people, saying, "Tell your own personal stories."
Yeah, but I mean, to me, originality would be because they've brought in people like Brad Bird, for example, when he brought in The Incredibles, and also he took over Ratatouille, and he's made some good things. And Brad Bird was an outsider, in regards to this. So in my opinion of originality, it wasn't about just saying oh hey, here's these new people here who need to cut their teeth. Let's get them involved in one of the biggest gold standards in in Disney's circle. I mean, that wasn't really my idea of what you should do. I thought that Craig Bartlett could do a great, Pixar movie. I think Dana Terrace could do a great Pixar movie. I think, people who have basically created, franchises and IP and, other things that have, that will stand the test of time. I mean, everyone still talks about Gravity Falls. Everyone still talks about Amphibia. Everyone still talks about The Owl House. And, for better or for worse. And, also, there's other stuff out there that people have created outside of the Disney spectrum that people are going goo goo gaga over.
Yeah.
So these are the people that need to be at the Disney helm. I mean, no disrespect to the new people, the new kids on the block who have turned up at Pixar. I mean, the proof unfortunately is in the pudding. I mean, Luca did not do well, and Elio did not do well either. And the only real movie that I can see out of that era that really shone for me was Turning Red, and
even that movie had a lot of backlash and mixed reactions, especially from people who said that they couldn't relate to it. They felt that a girl turning into a panda was just really weird. It was supposed to be a strange metaphor for a girl who's growing up, and then you had a time in which when the main bad guy was generational trauma. So yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, they did not like Turning Red whatsoever.
I think it's because it's not a family movie per se, and I mean, let's be honest, it took place in the year 2002. So
yes.
For who's the target demo for that audio, for that movie when you really think about it?
Yeah,
it's not. I mean, for me, it's going towards at least 25, at the most 40. I mean, so that's not really Pixar's it's very niche for what Pixar was trying to go for.
I mean, that's the thing.
Here's the thing, we're going to talk about Toy Story 5, and that's basically for everybody. everybody.
Exactly.
At
Yeah,
this
here's the
point.
thing. I mean, ever since the year 2020, a lot of the Pixar movies that have been coming out have been super niche. We have Onward, which is about two brothers who resurrect their father using magic, and one guy who barely knew his dad when he was a kid, and the other one never met his dad because he died before he was born. And then you have
Well,
this.
the thing with that movie is the aesthetic. I mean, like, the story, I think, was solid, but I think the aesthetic, unfortunately, was just, it was past it at that point. Like, if it took place, like, in the middle of, like, the fantasy epic, era, like, when we had, like, Warcraft and, like, various other things that were coming out at the time, that were all, like, epic fantasy movies, like, if it came out, like, in the middle of that and was making fun of the genre, I think then it would have, like, had more impact, I think, with the going audience. It's like, oh, hey, this is a movie that's going to, like, be a bit of a parody of, like, all of this and make fun of them all and stuff like that. But when it released, like, we were past that at that point. It was kind of like when, remember when we're going to show our age, when, Operation Desert Storm was going on, and, like, there was Iraq, and the World Wrestling Federation decided to do Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter, and Sergeant Slaughter was, like, the Iraqi sympathizer, and Hulk Hogan was, like, the big American hero who was going to save the USA from this, tyrannical, Sergeant Slaughter, who would, was a turncoat and a traitor. And, but, the Iraq War was done at that point. I mean, at least the first part of it was anyway. Desert Storm had, disappeared from the news headlines, and the WWF was still catching up at that point to the fact that no one wanted to see this, and it is the reason why they ended up moving to a smaller venue because of it for WrestleMania.
And then you have,
and that's how I feel about Onward. I mean, like, it kind of just, if it happened like in the middle of like when all the epic movies were coming out, I would have kind of like understood. But this happened like way after all of that, and was like it kind of missed the boat.
Then we have Luca, which is about two boys living in Italy, taking place around the 1960s, and them going through their regular, ordinary adventures. But the plot twist is that these are mer people, and so they go over to the surface for the very first time, and they experience life in Italy and wanting to experience what's out there. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of people compared it to Studio Ghibli with one of their more quieter films like Porco Rosso or Ponyo, or some of the earlier Studio Ghibli films. And once again, it's a very niche thing because it was based off of the director's childhood. Same thing again with Turning Red, we already talked about briefly. Same thing with Elemental, in which Peter Sohn was basing that off of his background, where his parents were immigrants coming into New York City and falling in love with one another and being surrounded in this huge melting pot that was the large city that the Elemental took place in. And then you had Elio, which once again, it's about an awkward kid who wants to be able to connect with aliens. And once again, that was based off of the creator's childhood. And yeah, you're kind of noticing a pattern is that all of these are based off of personal experiences, which is fantastic, by the way, but it's super, super niche, and only a handful of people will be able to relate to it, which is why films such as Inside Out 2 became a massive success, and why Hoppers was the first Pixar film that wasn't based off of Daniel Chung's childhood or anything like that. It was based off of a story that he came up with, did really super well. And yeah, I mean, we do like the fact that they were able to break new ground and try something a little bit more experimental, but it was very hit and miss for Pixar, which is why we weren't surprised when Toy Story 5 was announced.
Yeah. So, here we are, Toy Story 5. So, the cast that came back, I mean, Tom Hanks is back as Woody, and Tim Allen is back as Buzz, and Joan Cusack once again is reprising a role as Jessie, and they're joined by newcomers, says Conan O'Brien and Greta Lee, who plays Lilypad, who, I really thought was going to be our, massive antagonist about this. I really thought we were going to go back to, like, the old-time, I'm evil, sort of, like, villains, because we've been getting them recently, in other movies, but anyway, we'll get into that, later on. But the music also, Randy Newman has come back also to do his 10th Pixar collaboration, and Taylor Swift, would you believe, has also come into that as well. And so, I mean, once again, like, they're bringing out the big guns to do something really, really big. And I can probably imagine, like, the budget. Oh, by the way, the budget for this, I've actually just got in front of me here, $250 million. Yes. This movie was not cheap.
No, it is the most expensive Pixar movie to date.
How much that was due to Taylor Swift. Like, you're gonna be Randy now. I'm Taylor. Oh my goodness. So also one interesting thing about Toy Story 5, this is not a G movie, it's PG.
Yes.
Yeah, which, we'll get into it in a minute, but, there was some pretty, gripping stuff. I think that was, and also some scenes that also, were quite, wouldn't be very suitable for younger viewers, I will admit. But, I mean, like, it doesn't go into, like, blood and guts or, like, anything, like, too horrible, I don't think. I mean, like, if anything, it's just kind of like, watching Jessie kind of, like, go through, what she's going to go through, which, by the way, we'll talk about later on in the podcast.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, I don't know. PG rating? Do you think so?
I mean, I guess it depends on the context where... I don't really think on why this was PG when some of the other films started to go a little bit darker.
Oh, actually, hang on a second. I actually just found out why. I actually was a little bit further into it. I'm sorry, I'm just still looking through my notes because, by the way, we saw this a week ago, and as you all know, that my mind just doesn't exist, after a week.
And also,
actually,
it's been hot.
That's an interesting thing. Actually, I'm going to talk about later on when we finally finish with this. So you remind me of that when we get onto it.
Yeah. Anyway,
but,
also it's been hot.
Yeah, also it's been hot, and so I mean, apparently, thematic elements and rude humor obviously was that. I know, by the way, we'll get into the rude humor when we get
we'll get to that.
Podcast. So yeah, like, by the way, this isn't Jackass rude or anything like that. Like, it's pretty tame for really when you really think about it.
Fair enough, but still, I guess they do wanted to give it the rating. I mean, this isn't like the 80s in which like PG meant blood and violence and very scary things that you would see, like skeletons and demons. Like, I'm looking at you, All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah. So, let's get into the story. And so, this takes place 2 years after the events of Toy Story 4. Because, by the way, how many years now have we gone from, like, Andy being a kid all the way up to, what? It's been now 20-something years, I guess you could say, since the first movie?
I mean, we're talking about where Andy was, like, a little kid and he was celebrating his birthday. All the way up until, we don't know how old he was. Maybe he was 6 or 7. All the way up until Toy Story 3, where he was 17 years old. So, from Toy Story 1 to Toy Story 3, we went for maybe a 10-year gap. From Toy Story 4 and 5, we went to Toy Story 3, Bonnie was maybe 3 or 4 years old, and in this movie Bonnie is 8, so it's been a couple of years since then. And it takes place immediately after the end credits of Toy Story 4, if you stuck around to it, where Bonnie created a new utensil toy that would be alongside with Forky, and that was literally how Toy Story 4 ended. Toy Story 5 begins with their wedding.
So, well, before we even get into that, we're treated to what effectively is going to be our segues, I guess you could say, until we finally get into the final third, and that is that a shipping container is abandoned on a deserted island. I guess it fell off a shipping container during a rough storm, and it's filled of high-tech Buzz Lightyear toys.
Yes.
And they basically set up their own society, and they effectively established their own religion, I guess you could say, of saying that, posing at a star and calling it Star Command. And I mean, I guess it's interesting. I mean, this could have been its own short when you really think about it.
Yeah.
A bunch of Buzz Lightyears are all trapped on this island, realize they have to survive for themselves, and then they are just sitting there on this island with no hope whatsoever, and then finally something gives them hope. They look at a star in the sky and they call it Star Command.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of some of the cut content of Toy Story 3 back when it was going to be done by Circle 7 Animation, in which that Buzz Lightyear was malfunctioning, and the only way they can be able to fix him is that they get some parts from Taiwan, which is where the Buzz Lightyear toys are being manufactured.
And by the way, if you're all questioning why Pixar is doing a Toy Story 5, well, Disney will have done it eventually. So, because the proof there is in Circle 7.
Yeah, trust me.
The proof's in the circle.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't know anything about what happened during the Circle 7 animation phase,
I think we covered it in the Toy Story 3 podcast, didn't we?
We briefly covered it. But for those who don't know, around the 2000s when Pixar and Disney were kind of at their clashing
loggerheads, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
I think they nearly broke away from Disney.
They did break away. They almost did break away.
Disney,
and so, Michael Eisner wanted to cash in on the popularity of how big Toy Story was, because none of the other Disney movies were doing very well. And so they wanted to do a direct-to-video company very similar to Disney Toon Studios called Circle 7 Animation, where they're going to be doing direct-to-video films on the Pixar films, one of which was going to be Toy Story 3, Monsters, Inc. 2, and Finding Nemo 2. And so for Toy Story 3, it would have been about how Buzz Lightyear was going through a malfunction. The toys ship themselves over to Taiwan so that they can be able to find the parts to fix him. They meet up with a whole bunch of Buzz Lightyears. And so it kind of feels like somewhat similar to that, but not necessarily, because I mean, if you know from the interview when Circle 7 shut down, when they didn't go anywhere and Disney just bought off Pixar anyway, they just simply said when they were doing their own version of Toy Story 3 that they had no idea what Circle 7 was even doing.
You know what? That would have been the most interesting what if. What if Pixar had broken away from Disney and had gone to another studio? Like, that would have been interesting. Like, imagine they went to Warner Bros. Imagine they went to Paramount. Like, imagine they ended, like, doing some Nickelodeon, IPs. We would be talking about the same Pixar that we were talking about the Disney the same we're talking about them now. Like, what could have been.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, and also it answers a question on why, after all this time when Buzz Lightyears, they all think that they're space rangers, they freeze immediately when they see humans when ordinarily toys would do it. And the reason why is because it was in their instincts to freeze, and then they found out that, humans are our enemies, let's stay away from them, let's freeze up every time that we meet up with them. So it actually does answer a question that a lot of people felt was a bit of a continuity error or something that was a complete oversight.
It's funny because a lot of people who theorize, on the Pixar lore and like the Pixar stories, they seem to think that Toy Story takes place after WALL-E.
What?
I mean, yeah, like after the world's been destroyed, and like they think that the toys are actually like the robots that populated the Earth when where they were doing everything that all the humans didn't want to do, and so basically that's what they are. They were like small little robots that are the toys effectively. So
that doesn't make any sense considering that Woody, Jessie, and the Prospector were toys from the 1950s.
I mean, their version of the 1950s. How do we know they didn't start the calendar again? But anyway, I digress.
Okay, let's continue.
Let's continue. So we get these segues that are in there. So finally after that, we finally get into the meat and potatoes of what Toy Story 5 is. So Bonnie is still the owner of all these toys. There's a wedding that goes on, but then that's interrupted by the fact that Bonnie is trying to make friends with other kids in the neighborhood, and she just struggles, and it's very sad because she just doesn't have any confidence to make friends.
Yeah, and it's very consistent with Toy Story 4, because if you've seen where it was her first day of kindergarten, she was trying to make friends with everybody and nobody paid attention to her. They all ignored her, and so that's why she created Forky in the first place, was because that was her only friend and her only confidant in kindergarten, helping her get by kindergarten because she had no friends. And so this is pretty consistent with what happened in Toy Story 4.
Yeah. So this Bonnie's story is continuing from the last movie to this one, and so the parents think, well, I mean, all her other kids that seem to know her seems to have these Lilypad or these pad things, so they go to the extreme of buying them, effectively this device which seems to have no parental controls or any way of really protecting her, and effectively this is effectively will be our quote-unquote antagonist, Lilypad.
Yes.
And so Lilypad, I mean, she effectively is, she's not really an antagonist in this, in the sense. And when I first was introduced to her, I thought, oh wow, I mean, we're going back to the old-timey villains of we got to defeat this villain in order to protect Bonnie from.
It made it look like that in the trailers.
They definitely made it look like that.
Yeah,
and,
it looked like that she was very sadistic and she was very sinister, and she was going to do anything that she could to be the best toy for Bonnie.
Even in the spoil, even in the teasers that they released on social media, I mean, they showed her manipulating code to make people think they're talking to one another, and she ends up getting the toys being put into the garage.
Yes,
because of that. So we've been told effectively that this is the villain of the movie, and we hate this thing. And I mean, when I saw that, I kind of thought, look, I know in Hollywood right now, for a lot of people who are part of the apparatus right now, they are very scared of things like artificial intelligence and the emerging technologies that are going on. I mean, and this isn't new for Hollywood. I mean, they've been warning about this since the days of Terminator, for crying out loud. When Arnold Schwarzenegger was saying, "I'll be back."
Yeah.
I mean, so this to me, I felt well, this is nothing new. I mean, Hollywood once again is scared of technology and things like that. And I think the way that they tried to put it into Toy Story 5, where they have this toy versus tech kind of thing going on, is that this is where you are given a false kind of like interpretation of Lily in this. Just looking at the teasers alone, you actually find that she is actually like the new kid who's like somewhat like a bit carefree, but also somewhat under pressure to like be the deliverer of friends for Bonnie to that. But in actual fact, she's actually making them more isolated, because of the way that they interact. They've actually like just played multiplayer games together and don't really like have like any real conversations with one another. They're eventually just kind of just glued to their screens, and like they never like look up once to like acknowledge each other or anything like that.
No,
they're effectively zombies.
Yeah, pretty much
at this point. And that's the way that this is all sort of portrayed. Like the technology in Toy Story 5 effectively is the thing that is distracting everyone from like what is going on around them, whether it's the toys running around their feet, or whether it's things that are going on within the family and things like that. And also the one thing I think that is a problem for Lily is that she doesn't realize how much of a danger she is actually to Bonnie, because Jessie confronts Lily and says, well, look, we're trying to get some friends for Bonnie in order to for her to have like some sort of social life of her own. And Billy just says, oh well, I got these 3 people who like they happen to be in a dance class, so they must be somewhat friends, so I'll just add them and let's hope for the best. And really she does a massive job to like wreck her Bonnie's ability to socialize in that. Not only because like she's in a bunch of people who like don't really share her viewpoints and don't really share anything that she likes. It's just the fact that she has a Lilypad, and that's what makes her cool. Yeah. If anything, that's the only thing that they have, in common. Everything else, like, is out the window at that point. And so, with Lily, I mean, if anything, it makes her probably less of a villain. Probably, dare I say, man, it makes her incompetent, because, like, she's just assuming that, because, oh, I see friends, therefore they are friends. I see, game, and therefore that is them, interacting with one another, when in actual fact it's not. And even Lily herself, when she's been confronted on the things, she, she kind of just, whisks the criticism aside and, like, just gets bored and, like, starts looking at things on her own and things like that. And, like, there's times when, like, we're trying to get through the movie. Actually, I'll tell you what, that's one thing that kind of goes against this. I hate the fact that, we're trying to carry on the narrative of the movie, and Lily is too distracted by her own self to actually acknowledge what's going on. I don't know whether that's, like, a perfect commentary, or whether that's, frustrating for the story.
No, it's actually perfect for the commentary. Because,
you think so?
Absolutely, because...
I got frustrated out of it, to be honest with you.
Well, I think the reason why you got frustrated out of it is because it actually is true. I mean, here in the UK, this is actually pretty relevant to this.
But does it make a good movie narrative? That's what I'm asking. Like, is this something? Do you really want to be like sat like with where one character is trying to like tell the story narrative and trying to interact, and the other person's too distracted to kind of like understand what's going on? Like, it's just it would be interesting if like the person was listening and like they're just too like out of it to kind of like understand kind of what's going on. I've got to be honest with you. Like, this is not the Big Lebowski by any stretch of the imagination. I've got to be honest with everybody about that. And also, it's not a movie that really goes very well in regards with interacting narrative, I guess, if it comes to Lily being on the screen. I don't know about you, but I just found her like just to be so unlikable. I get that was the point, but like, yes. I don't know, like, but after watching He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and we got a really entertaining villain out of Skeletor, like interacting with other people, like probably not in the nicest of ways. I don't know. I just kind of feel like I prefer Skeletor. Over Lily. I mean,
fair enough. I mean, here's the thing. So, as you guys know, for Lilypad, I mean, she's just trying her very best so that she can be able to grant Bonnie friends, and that she can be able to become the best toy that is possible. And, this reminded me so much of Anxiety from Inside Out 2, in which Anxiety comes across as really unlikable, where, she's trying to take over.
At least she's not distracted. At least, she says, okay, well, I'm just going to I acknowledge what you say, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take it under advisement and then just go off on my own tangent. At least she did that.
That's true. Yes.
Lily didn't do that.
Well, I mean, with a device, I mean, it's all about distractions. I mean, you have like, you're looking through your email, and then 1 minute you go into social media. Maybe another thing you're going to is like you're making a phone call. Maybe another thing you're doing is you're responding to a text message. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you were to give a child a tablet or a phone, I mean, they're easily going to be distracted by like hours of playing through a game, or like watching watching a video or something like that. I mean, yeah, I mean, even for an adult, they can easily like sucker themselves into looking through their tablet or through their phone for hours, doing like a whole bunch of different things while exactly at the same time not really accomplishing too much. And so, yeah, I mean, like it's very scatterbrained, very similar to how people are when they're going through social media. It's like, for a child, it's like they're glued into it, they're suckered in. It's like you were saying earlier, they're zombies. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense why Lilypad is programmed into like saying all these distractions and bringing up all the features that she has, because that's what she was made to do.
Yeah. So, toys all over the world effectively are like being abandoned because of what's going on at the moment, because of tech. So, Jessie reaches out to Woody, asking about, how bad is it out there and what they should do. And unfortunately, Jessie, during a miscommunication, thinks that she needs Woody. Woody thinks she needs her back, to deal with the situation. So, Woody coming in with his poncho and his very shiny bald head, comes back to, the toys to help save the day.
Yeah.
And which, funny enough, leads to, once again, like, I don't know how to feel about this. The fact that, once again, we've got Woody and Buzz, I mean, like, they start off, respecting one another, but then after that, it's like, once again, they resume hostilities that they sort of kind of had, in Toy Story as well. Like, this is when Buzz Lightyear thought he was a space ranger. By the way, Buzz Lightyear doesn't revert like he does in Toy Story 3, like in this movie. I'm not talking about that kind of thing.
No.
But it's kind of like, once again, we've got like two guys who, were once again are butting heads. And I don't know whether they were like, they want to do this as a callback to, the first Toy Story movie, or whether they wanted to like, do like a fresh kind of misunderstanding kind of thing entirely. But, I don't know, like, I kind of dislike the whole thing, like, where the good guys disagree over something, like, in the second act, and then they come back together in the final third, and, like, everything is saved.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen that multiple times before.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not new.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, from what I understand, very similar to Toy Story 4, there were a lot of rewrites in Toy Story 5, and originally, Woody was not supposed to be in this movie, but then they wrote him in anyway because they felt like, it's not a Toy Story movie without Woody, so he should be in there.
Well, I mean, like, Toy Story 4 kind of gave him, like, this grand exit.
Exactly, exactly, and that's why they didn't write him into the story
if
in
anything,
the first place.
Jesse and Buzz should basically, Jesse should have been the main character of this, and Buzz Lightyear should have like been like the supporting actor, I guess you could say, in all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, like, I can understand why they brought Woody back. I mean, obviously because he is the that, but if anything, like, he becomes a danger in the fact that he overshadows Jessie in all of this, because Jessie's got her own story to tell in all of this. Thankfully, Jessie gets the most screen time out of this, which is correct.
Yes.
Because, now she is the sheriff of the toys, effectively, and Buzz Lightyear is the deputy. So, if anything, she is the one who is trying to look after and trying to get Bonnie's attention back again and trying to get her to make her some friends, and she's committed to doing that because, not because she's thinking about, Bonnie, but also she kind of has flashbacks about, what happened with Emily, and also once again being left out to, when being donated again, or, even worse, when being thrown out.
Right.
So, she's got her own, hang-ups about, why, what might happen if, Lily continues to have influence over her. And, but it's funny because, over time, Jessie, at the time of the movie, Jessie's, interpretation of what's going on then becomes different because, she then meets up with a bunch of, like, tech toys that are now considered obsolete, and where they're the triple, the double A battery club that they call themselves. So there's one toy that was teaching Blaze, who is another character, basically how to use the bathroom, and then you had two other toys, which was a camera toy, and also you had another one which was her first flip phone.
Yeah.
And so even they have become victims of like what's happened with the ongoing things of technology. But Jessie doesn't see that. She says, "Oh, you're all just tech toys, so therefore you're just what do you know?"
Yeah.
And but little did she finally realizes that, oh hey, hang on a second, everyone's gonna go through this again at some point. And so where they try and do this angle where Jessie needs to sympathize with certain tech toys in order to help Bonnie out and help get them together with Blaze. In this, and so that evolving of the protagonist's story and what drives them, I think comes off very well. And but unfortunately, it's distracted complimented by the fact that we've got Woody back in this thing and having a his nonsensical fight with Buzz Lightyear. It's like, it's not needed.
No,
like,
it's not needed.
Focus on Jessie's the most interesting thing about this. And by the way, we get to the end of Jessie's story, and like, she's coming to terms with the fact that Emily felt like she just abandoned her and didn't forget and just forgotten all about that. She then comes across like a buried time capsule of Emily's time with her daughter, and her daughter was called Jessie.
Yes,
and that was a tearjerker for everyone in the cinema. Like, it's on par with Riley when Sadness finally comes in. She breaks down in front of her parents about how much she misses being in Minnesota. I mean, like, it's fantastic. Way to end this. It's almost on par with when Dory finally finds her parents. Like, Pixar. When Pixar's back, when they can immediately hit that correct note that they hit in various others of their masterpieces.
Yeah.
And so good on them for writing that. But but the only thing that I take away from that is that Jessie should have been the main focus of everything. And thankfully, for the majority of the movie, she is. But Woody and Buzz's tit for tat really didn't need to be involved.
No,
in this
I mean,
movie
if you were,
all.
yeah, exactly. If you were going to have Buzz along there, I mean, it was pretty relevant to where, he was helping alongside with the other Buzz Lightyear so that they can be able to help out Jessie when she was brought over to Emily's old house, which is where Blaze and her family lives. That makes sense for Buzz to be there. But Woody, I mean, I feel like you should have cut him off from the movie. I mean, I know that, Pixar were probably frightened. It's like, oh, what if we're going to get a lot of backlash that Woody's not in the movie because, Woody's
you could have had him cameo. I mean, like, he could have been like, advising, Jessie from afar about what to do.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, that's what most of the other toys have been since Toy Story 4. I mean, they're just like quick cameos. It's like, oh, here's Slinky Dog, here's Rex, here's Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. And
I mean, you could say that Mr. Potato Head, was a cameo, wouldn't you? Because unfortunately, because Don Rickles passed away, I mean, like, thankfully his family did allow him to like use like the unused lines that he could have on this, so he can still be in this movie.
Well, not necessarily true, because in Toy Story 5, they have a new voice actor for Mr. Potato Head, and that is Jeff Bergman.
Oh, I stand corrected. Sorry, that was Toy Story 4.
That was Toy Story 4.
Okay, I do apologize.
Yeah. In Toy Story 4, they used the old recordings of Don Rickles for like all the other unused stuff for the movies, for the TV show, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but in this one, they did get an actual voice actor. They actually got a voice actor for Mrs. Potato Head as well, where she was voiced by somebody else, because Estelle Harris, who is the voice of Mrs. Potato Head, had also passed away at that point. But the only thing that she did was a rap number in the end credits, and that was pretty much it, because in the movie, she does not talk whatsoever. I mean, you would have thought that maybe she was, it would have been a case in which maybe that they decided to keep her character silent because they wanted to respect Estelle Harris. But nope, no, that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah. And then we get to Lilypad, and we've now got to the point where like all the kids are laughing at Bonnie on chat, and like Bonnie is just so miserable. And now this actually was an important point in the movie, because the parents realized that Bonnie was so miserable in front of this iPad, and she said, "Oh, honey, what's going on?" And she actually did the important thing of handing the Lilypad over to her mom, and she looked through it all, and she like realizes how awful some of the interactions have been, which is really what every parent should be doing in regards to that. They should really be keeping an eye on like who their kids are interacting with and what they're going through, because it's a part of their emotional well-being.
Yeah, exactly.
And she turns the chat off as well.
Yeah, she turns the chat off, and she
before they did that, I mean, like Lily effectively she realized that she failed. Because she set herself this task to, get Bonnie more, related with other people who had Lilypads. But in actual fact, like, that she pretty much ruined her ability to socialize even more. So in actual fact, Lily blames herself for what has happened, and she realizes how much of how bad she's been, and eventually she ends up donating herself.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she does worse than what Jessie does. Like, Jessie, she didn't get a choice in whether she was going to up in the donation truck. She voluntarily put herself in the truck, which I thought was kind of strange, because I thought, when she saw the donation truck and she was like moving around, like, what's she doing? And then it's like, oh wait, she's effectively offing herself.
Yes.
That in a way was kind of dark, when you really think about it. So I mean, like, I guess that alone could also kind of like say, well, there's a character that's sort of kind of like, trying to, end themselves. I mean, maybe that's probably very PG, I guess you could say.
I guess so.
Yeah, like, I was not expecting that whatsoever.
Yeah, it's
I thought Lily basically was just going to be, she's going to just constantly stop. I thought she was going to be the Terminator in all of this. Like, she will not stop until she is stopped. Like, I predicted, like, as you see in the social media video, like, there was going to be the ironic death that, she's a frog Lilypad, and, she would be defeated by being thrown in a pond or something like that.
This is the second time you made a prediction that a Toy Story villain was going to die.
Yeah.
You said the same thing with Gabby, and you said the same thing with Lilypad.
Yeah, so I guess I've got to stop doing that. I know what's going to happen in Toy Story 6 now. I'm going to say, okay, well, nothing's going to happen to the villain, and he's just going to be part of, like, the family now, and then next thing you know, it's like, I mean, yeah, that's going to happen. But
anyway, while we're on the subject of Jessie finding out about how a massive impact that she had on Emily, I actually did a little bit of research where, according to the Art of Toy Story 5 book, originally Jessie was going to be reunited with Emily. And she was going to give Emily was going to give Jessie to her granddaughter. But they cut that scene off because they felt it was too predictable. And a lot of people on social media were angry, saying that they should have added it in. But here's the thing. You have not read for a long time, or you've never read it at all, the 22 Rules of Pixar, which is never be predictable. Write your first draft, then your second, then your third, then your fourth, then your fifth. You want to be able to keep things fresh. Have your audience expect the unexpected.
Well, I think that was an important thing to do, and because I don't know, like, it's predictable for me. It'd be kind of like, we're done with Emily's era now. We're done with Andy's era. Don't bring these guys back. I mean, like, if anything, they have moved on.
Yeah, they've moved on.
Yeah, they've moved on. So, if anything, now we are focused with Bonnie, and where do we go from Bonnie? And that's what I'm focused on in regards to if we're going to continue Toy Story, like, for another 5 sequels. I mean, if we're going to Toy Story 10, I mean, good grief. Yeah, can you imagine, like,
Toy Story 10, we're going to have the devices that is going to help people check on their blood sugar.
I have no idea. I digress. But I mean, like, in regards to doing that, yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Like, these were eras that happened, like, in the toys' lives, but they don't need rehashing or bringing back or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, keep that out. So I agree with that decision, to be honest with you. I didn't want to see Emily in this. I like the idea that Emily's just like, this legend that was in, Jessie's life, and then everything that happened. I was kind of a bit disappointed that we actually saw what Emily actually looked like, if anything. Like, it would be kind of like nice just to have the mystery, and then we could like say, oh, someone's walking past, like, and say, oh, hey, maybe that might be Emily.
Yeah.
Like, you never know.
Yeah, and so the whole Pixar theory about Emily being Andy's mom, you can drop it now.
No.
It's over.
Yeah, let's stop it.
Yeah,
stop
but stop it. But I did like the little touch that Emily was able to get Jessie's hairpiece, and she kept it for herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was nice.
That was actually really nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, so they go and rescue Lily because they realize that, I think she's taking, what happened to her way too far, and it looks like she's willing to learn a lesson. So they do rescue Lily and put them back into, into Bonnie's life. But Mom's turned off the chat controls now, so there's no way they can get in good contact with Blaze.
Right.
So so that then gets resolved, and I'm really glad that, because the worst thing I thought was going to happen is that Lily's going to put herself in the donation truck, and then that's going to be it. And that's the villain defeated for this movie until we move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So, but no, apparently they're going to keep Lily around. So interesting to see what they do with her in the future. Whether there's going to be any future specials or any shorts or like anything like that. So it opens the realm of possibility now. So,
it does, yeah. And also the fact that we have Bonnie meeting up with Blaze, and now they're close friends, because we saw Blaze throughout the beginning of the movie that she lives in the same house that Emily used to live, and she's a horse girl, and she has an active imagination, and the fact that she's very similar to what Bonnie is right now, where she has an active imagination and she loves playing with her toys. I also really like like the nice touch that they were able to give when Bonnie imagines what the toys are like whenever that she plays with them. They have this really nice watercolor 2D animation, and I think that that's really nice because when we see how Andy imagines them, it's either like, oh, it's just him playing with his toys, or the toys are actually like coming to life, and then you cut over to when the toys are fake. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because Bonnie's younger, and also she has a more active imagination than Andy did. So, yeah, I really like the fact that they were able to give this really nice aesthetic, and the fact that we get to hear Bullseye speak for the very first time in this. And he's voiced by Alan Cumming, and he does a really fantastic job being this devious, over-the-top villain. I really like that touch. And yeah, I mean, I guess we haven't really gotten too much into Blaze's old devices, where we have a Smarty Pants who helped Blaze with potty training. You had Snappy, who was a toy camera, and we had Atlas, who was a GPS/cell phone. And so, yes, they were a part of Blaze's life, helping her out, but they didn't exactly play with her like a toy. They were devices that helped her out with things such as like helping go to the bathroom and taking photos of when they went over to theme parks and all the fond memories that they have, or with Atlas, in which
and of course they went to Disney World.
Yeah, of course.
Because of course they went to Disney World.
Of course they went to Disney World. Duh.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then we had Atlas, who was able to track down with his GPS and also work as a cell phone. And so, yeah, I mean, they also are very passionate about their owner just as much as they were as playing with toys. And, Jessie, of course, is very doubtful of them because, she experienced what it was like with tech with Lilypad. And so she wasn't going to be friends with them immediately, but then she starts warming up to them over time. And so, yeah, I mean, I just think that the way that they were able to interact with one another, and they had, very similar to Mitchell's versus the Machines, this beautiful balance of the importance between using technology and going back into the old ways. And so I really did enjoy how they were able to play with this message.
Yeah. So, I mean, me personally, I don't think I have any more to add to this, really, because, I mean, well, one thing I think we should probably add is that, this is probably the most predictable. This, me, was, we talk about, like, not being predictable, but this was predictable to me. Jessie and Buzz finally get together in this movie.
Yeah, it's very...
And they get married.
Yeah, it's very similar to, they go, Buzz actually goes through another plot point in which is very similar to Mr. Bernard from Rescuers Down Under or Kristoff from Frozen 2, in which he wants to confess his love to Jessie because he fell in love with her the moment that he saw her in Toy Story 2. And yeah, in Toy Story 3, there was kind of like a little bit of a love thing right there. Toy Story 4, not really much of a focus, so it makes a lot of sense because Woody was the main focus. And
I mean, at the very beginning of the Toy Story 5, I mean, I knew that, oh, hey, they're going to finally continue this, they're going to finally get this love story going. And because, it's teasing it from the very beginning, like, I wasn't expecting, I would be pretty disappointed if they kind of like said, oh, let's just be friends, like, at the very end of the movie. Like, no, like, they were going to do that. Like,
right.
You tease this whole thing up and, like,
yeah, they've been teasing this for over 20 years at this point.
Exactly, yeah, and it's almost like, various other love stories that, like, have been teased up at this point, and, like, so, for me, it was pretty predictable that, Jessie and Buzz were going to get together and get married at the end of the movie, so there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, and so, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what Toy Story 5 is. And so, I know you wanted to mention something earlier in the discussion when you were trying to recollect on your thoughts on it.
Here's the thing about this, is that you and I came away from this movie, and we said, oh, hey, we did enjoy it, and that. But then the next day, that faded away. And I was like, huh. Like,
yeah,
because
I was remembering that because we were in the car and...
Even Masters of the Universe 2026, as much as, as a lukewarm and, like, half-baked the movie that was, I mean, like, at least we had fun talking about it, for a good couple of days before we finally did the podcast.
Yeah, like literally the next day when we were in the car, I was asking you about, like, oh, are you ready to give your thoughts into Toy Story 5? And you said that you...
weren't really thinking about it.
Yeah, you weren't thinking about it whatsoever.
Yeah, like, which is, I had a lot of things to think about after I saw Toy Story, and I had a lot of things about when I definitely had a lot to think about when I saw Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 was still my favorite Toy Story movie, and then, like, even with Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4, you and I were, like, kind of talking about it for, like, a while but after that. But then after Toy Story 5, I was kind of like, huh, this happened, yeah, but I have really nothing further kind of discuss about it, really, because everything that happened in this movie has happened, and, yeah, okay, then. See you all in Toy Story 6, I guess.
Yeah, and you might be thinking, oh, well, that's too soon, Arun and Patricia. And no, here's the thing. So Andrew Stanton had stated that he wants to continue on with doing more Toy Story movies, and he's hoping that Toy Story 6 will be the end of the Bonnie trilogy.
Well, yeah, and then we move on to, I don't know, like, who's going to be the next trilogy, I guess. Like,
I don't know.
Well, I hope the kid's going to be... It's interesting because you have Andy, who is like, this really happy and over-enthusiastic child, and, he is like, with that. And then you got Bonnie, who's really shy and really like, within her shell. And now, like, what kid do you move on to after that? I mean, I guess. I mean, like, I don't know, but... yeah, here's the thing about this, everybody. Like, the critics right now of this are saying very positively about this. I mean, like, I'm not going to go as far as the other, critics about Toy Story, but the box office, I think, speaks for itself. Right now, I mean, like, as of the last, time I looked at the figures, it's now $400 million at the box office worldwide.
Yeah.
Well, this has only been open for a week, and it's already grossed $400 million, and we still got a couple of months to go before it ends its run.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the current trajectory, this could break $1 billion.
Yeah.
If you're doing $400 million a week, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good. I mean, we're talking about, like, the fastest growing Pixar movie in years.
Well, in 2020, and probably the fastest growing box office in 2026.
Yes.
Like, this is doing gangbusters at the moment. And unfortunately, everybody, once we hit $1 billion, I think we can all definitely say there's going to be a Toy Story 6.
Yeah, it's inevitable up at this point. I mean,
there's going to be another Super Mario Brothers movie. Like Galaxy hit $1 billion at the box office as well. It prints money.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the Nintendo Wii. It prints money. Toy Story prints money. Inside Out prints money. So yeah, you're gonna definitely see more of those in the future. And for those who are saying, oh, but these movies are not necessary, they should have ended at 3. Well, guess what? You're still going to see this movie anyway.
Yeah. So I think we should probably talk about its potential legacy, I guess, and the long-term impact of this movie. I mean, first of all, this movie breaks tradition, effectively, that the shift of the other Toy Story movie, another Toy Story 5, at least one thing I think we say positively about it is like it's a tonal shift from what we normally get like within other Toy Story movies. I think we can just safely say that.
Sure.
Because it's bringing up, toys versus tech, and it's bringing up like a legitimate conversation that parents are probably having up and down there. But is it a conversation that kids are having? I mean, the movies, I mean, like, actually, tell you what, I was reading an article like that one person was saying is that she took her daughter over to watch Toy Story 5, and then after Toy Story 5, she never picked up her iPad again.
Yeah, I saw the same thing, by the way,
Yeah.
of a little boy who was like maybe 5 years old. Moment he saw Toy Story 5, he took his iPad and put it in the side of his room and never touched it.
Wow.
Yeah. And also the fact that, I mean, I know this has nothing to do with Toy Story 5, but here in the UK, as of the making of this, they're starting to ban social media for kids under 15 years old.
Here's the thing about this. Now, before everyone gets in their minds like, oh, good grief, Toy Story 5 is the reason why kids aren't using, iPads and devices and social media anymore under the age of 16. This discussion has been going on long before Toy Story 5 was released.
Yeah.
So this is something that's been, talked about, before that. Before anyone starts going on this podcast in the comment section, it's like, Toy Story 5 is like, doing all this. No, it's not.
No.
Like, no, this is a conversation that happened regardless of Toy Story 5 is this or not.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, but we've been seeing this like all over social media of how much of a huge impact this is not only doing for kids but also for adults. I even saw somebody who watched this movie and said that this movie, as an adult with kids, like this movie felt like it was speaking to me of how much that tech has influenced the child and how it can be both positive and negative. And even we were talking about this when we were coming home, is that if it wasn't for tech and if it wasn't for the internet, we wouldn't have met.
Yeah, exactly. So, the other thing that's also, different about this Toy Story 5 movie is that, the character evolution that we get in this. Jessie's journey is definitely not one that we've ever seen in a Toy Story movie
we've
before,
never
so we've got to give it credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the most amount of development that we've seen Jessie since Toy Story 2. And, yeah, I mean, I know that she had a little bit of development in Toy Story 3. She barely was in Toy Story 4. And we're not talking about the Toy Story shorts, so, yeah, don't bring that up. But, for the most part, this is a lot of development that we've seen from Jessie, and it's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, is it very similar to The Incredibles, in which the first movie was about Mr. Incredible, the second movie is about Elastigirl? I mean, could Toy Story 6 maybe focus on somebody else?
Maybe I might focus on Buzz.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, we haven't really, I mean, here's the thing. It's funny because, like, we don't really have to focus on Buzz yet.
No, we have not.
Yeah, so maybe Buzz might be focus on Toy Story 6, maybe. Like,
yeah, and let's just hope
it's better than Lightyear.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. I hope it's better than Lightyear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, speaking of Lightyear, thank you for bringing that up. But they retconned Lightyear when Buzz Lightyear was speaking to all the other Buzzes, saying like, "Oh, by the way, Zurg is our father." So yeah, Zurg is not him from an alternate timeline. So yeah.
Well, I think that was more a callback to Toy Story 2, if anything.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing. I mean, this took place like years after Lightyear, so maybe they could have, maybe changed the continuity. But no, they never did. They stuck to their original continuity, saying like, "No, Zurg is our father. He is not an alternate version of ourselves." So yeah, Lightyear is officially non-canon, ladies and gentlemen.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, like, he was always a spin-off anyway, so he wasn't really going to be, like, part of the canon, if anything. So
fair enough.
If anything, like, they say, oh, this is the movie that, like, again, we're not, go watch the Lightyear podcast if you want to hear our opinion of Lightyear, but I'm not going to rehash it again.
No, we're not going to.
Let's talk about, like, once again, Disney is reinforcing Toy Story, and in fact, I think the fans are reinforcing that Disney, to Disney, that they still want to see Toy Story stuff, so it's going to be there in the parks, it's going to be there, in all the, like, toys and things like that, and, the merchandise, things like that. Like, Toy Story is still going to be with us for the foreseeable future from the looks of it, because if this is what people are paying to go and see, well, I mean, why would Disney change course at this point?
Yeah, it's
you fans right now who are going to see Toy Story 5, and, me and my Patricia included, are effectively telling Disney this is what we want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
So all of you complaining about the fact that, there's not original content out there, unfortunately, we're all to blame for this.
Yes, we are. Pixar gave us original content for years, and either nobody saw it or you did see it and you complained about it, saying that it wasn't made for you.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
well, here's something made for you. It's called Toy Story 5.
And Inside Out 2.
Yeah, exactly. So, unfortunately, until we start to learn, to love, original content again, we're going to be stuck with this for the foreseeable. So, yeah.
I mean, it's the one. I'm sorry, but this and Inside Out 2 have made the most money this decade.
By the way, we don't take any pleasure saying this because me and Patricia actually, we did enjoy Turning Red, and we do enjoy, some of the original stuff.
Yeah, we
that
enjoyed,
did come out.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, unfortunately, they just other people didn't.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, again, listen to our discussions of every single Pixar movie that came out around the 2020s. Yeah, we did enjoy Soul. We enjoyed Luca. We enjoyed Turning Red.
We liked Hoppers.
Yeah, Hoppers. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people loved Hoppers because once again, it was a universal story that anybody can be able to relate to. It wasn't a personal story.
Well, I mean, it's well, I'm not sure if that's a mad scientist, jumping humans into other people's bodies. I mean, it's a cool sci-fi thing, I have to say.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
It's still a cool thing that people can say, oh yeah, I'd love the idea of doing that.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that you brought that up because you know what I'm going to bring up.
What's that?
Every single time that Pixar has released 2 movies a year, one has always been good and the other one has always been a massive disappointment. Have Pixar finally breaken the curse?
Well, let's talk about the scores because I'm going to safely say this. Hoppers, we gave a 10.
Yes. Well, yeah, you gave a 10, I gave a 9.
You gave a 9, so 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Here's my feel about Toy Story 5. Now, we don't discuss scores before we do this podcast. Do not. So this is new to Patricia and this is new to me, whatever we're going to decide.
Okay.
Here's the thing about this. I did enjoy Jessie's journey in this. I did like, what was going on with, at least they tried to do something with, the Buzz Lightyear toys, even though it kind of felt like, at the very beginning, it's kind of like when Scrat kind of does some stupid things like within the Ice Age movies, kind of more about that. And then finally they made it relevant in that. The story, I felt, it is an interesting narrative that they do tell, but the thing about it is that, it's nice they brought Randy Newman back, and it's, Taylor Swift does sing a nice song, but, we know that already with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing new. The sky is blue and water is wet. I mean, but here's the thing about this, I'm just worried of the fact that I walked away from this movie, I then went to bed, and then when I woke up the next morning, I didn't think about it. Yeah. I thought about Masters of the Universe, I thought about other movies that we've looked at in the past, and I thought about Hoppers, and I thought about various other ones, and to make up in my mind, I actually agonized over Hoppers, because I actually agonized giving it a 10, because, I thought, is this, really, given the fact that this is one of the best Pixar movies I've seen, and it was, and I felt like I fairly rewarded that. can I say that about the same about Toy Story 5? I just felt like it didn't leave an effect on me as much as it did. It probably left an effect on other people who were affected by, like, parents with kids, with technology, and, kids themselves. Also, the fact that we're hearing the stories about it as well, that's pretty effective in itself. But if you ask me personally, I'm sure there's some people are going to be raging in the comments over what I'm about to say. I don't think it is the most strongest Toy Story sequel. I still believe 2 is probably the strongest one.
Okay.
And, there's even memes about Toy Story 2 that still go on to this day, like that one where a guy posts like the same, clip of of Al saying, "Oh, I have to drive to work on a Saturday or to work," and just drives over the road. Like, it's just that still happens. But, Toy Story 5, I'm agonizing over here, I get it. The music is good, the story was interesting to follow, but I've got to be honest with you, it didn't leave an effect on me as I thought it would do, and I don't believe it's one of the strongest Toy Story sequels. It's not stronger than Toy Story 2, it's not stronger than, I would say, some of the other ones. I'm going to go, it's an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I would probably give it maybe an 8.5 because
so 8.25 out of 10.
Yeah, I do enjoy the fact that we were able to get a story from Jessie, and I also like the new additional characters that Blaze had, like the new devices. I really enjoyed Lilypad as an antagonist, even though that she kind of reminded me a little bit of Anxiety from Inside Out 2. And I also like the fact that we got this closure finally after so long with Jessie and Emily. And yeah, I mean, I do like what they were able to develop with the characters, and we like the social commentary about what tech is doing to kids and how they're able to break away from that, and the fact that we finally get to see Bonnie with a friend, and that I thought was really, really sweet. The things that I thought were weak, I didn't think Woody was necessary. I didn't think he was like integral to the plot, and I know that he kind of like inadvertently like got himself in there because he thought that Jessie and the other toys were in trouble, but still, I mean, you could have just had like a quick little cameo of maybe when Jessie was talking to Woody about like, are you going through the same thing? And Woody was like, yeah, I mean, we're finding a lot of abandoned toys too because, all the kids are playing with tech now. And, even with, Woody was saying like, toys are one thing, but tech is for everything. And, that definitely does hit you right there. It's like, yeah, I mean, when you reach a certain age, toys just become irrelevant to kids and then they move on to the next big thing. I mean, unless you have a fond, cherished memory with your toy, or unless you're a collector who's like has a whole wall or a whole room dedicated to toys, you're not really going to have an opportunity to spend time with toys as much anymore when you're an adult. And so, yeah, I mean, it does bring up a lot of interesting things. And yeah, I mean, I think that the positives do outweigh some of the negatives.
Which is interesting when we still got like, grown men buying action figures at comic conventions. So, like, well, I don't know what to make of that, really, but...
anyway, but yeah, I mean, now here's the question, and we didn't give a score of Toy Story 4 because at the time we didn't do scores, so do you think that Toy Story 5 is better than Toy Story 4?
In some aspects, yes. In other aspects, no.
Okay.
I think, Toy Story 4, I think, was like the transition from Andy from Bonnie. So I think you had a big story thing to go through that there. I think, this was supposed to be the big send-off for Woody as well, which I thought, was going to give an emotional moment for everybody there. And definitely with, with Andy handing over the toys over to Bonnie as well. I thought that was going to be, I think that was a bigger thing. I think there was more bigger things going on, I think, in Toy Story 4 than Toy Story 5 is. So I would definitely say that I don't think Toy Story, story-wise, I wouldn't say Toy Story 5, I think, was as significant. I think Toy Story 4 was. Sorry.
Okay, then. Yeah, so that is our discussion of Toy Story 5. So the next one we're going to be talking about in PixMix is going to be Gatto. And that is going to be the next movie from the same person who gave us Luca. So we're going to go back into Italy once again, but this time we're going to have the perspective of a cat.
Yeah. A slight announcement also to do as well. Now, some of you may have realized that I'm wearing my Never Lose Hope T-shirt, which I got when I was doing the promotion for the Save the Jungle movie campaign. And the reason I'm wearing this is because some of you may have also realized that the Hey Arnold anniversary shows have sort of disappeared from online. Well, I'm happy to announce that we are going to be re-releasing the Hey Arnold anniversary shows, starting with the very first one all the way back in 2011, and that will be releasing coming fairly shortly and will be releasing exclusively on the Old School Lane podcast.
Yeah, so yeah, for all the people who have been wanting to listen to Aaron's interviews with Craig Bartlett and all the questions that he's asked him over the past almost 15 years at this point. So yeah, you get to be able to listen to them exclusively. So a new episode will be coming out every single week until around October. And then afterwards, Aaron will be doing, hopefully, you know, a new anniversary show.
We'll be keeping you tuned on that. We'll let you know if it's happening or not.
All right, then. So yeah, until then, thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on Toy Story 5. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think it was better than Toy Story 4? Did you think it was worse than Toy Story 4? Where do you have it in the list of top Toy Story movies? And yeah, that's it. Hope to see you around soon and take care.
Bye-bye for now.